by nature. I'm a distance runner. I'm an animal that runs in the woods. I'd been that since I was 5 or 6. And if I was ever going to run what I loved, which was distance, they had to change the rule, and somebody had to go first.
On Thanksgiving Day, 69-year-old Julia Chase Brand will reprise her barrier-breaking run 50 years ago in the Manchester Road Race. At the time, competitive running was not something a girl growing up in Groton, Connecticut would even consider.
I can remember being 5 and 6, and if I missed the bus to school, it was like it was a fun thing, to run. It was 1.5 miles.
Then she became aware of a national champion marathoner from her hometown.
My father and I were going to church every morning during Lent, and there was Johnny Kelly out on the golf course. I cut every clipping, and that was 1957 when he won Boston. I thought that was the neatest thing in the world.
The scrapbook that started for clippings of Kelly soon became filled with her own, as she trained with Kelly's friend George Terry, starting with a New England track championship in 1960.
So with 1 month's training, I ran the New England's July 4th, 1960, and I won. I won the 880, my first time on a track, and I set the New England record.
But even for a promising young runner, racing opportunities were limited.
To run that first race, I had to lie. I had to list under a fictitious address in Westerly, Rhode Island, because Connecticut didn't allow women running. Thanksgiving came, and by that time I was just sort of one of the boys, and we'd go out for runs and so on. And Thanksgiving came, and they were all going to Manchester, so sure, come along. And George and I decided I'd run and get a workout. And they said, no, I couldn't. Well, maybe next year if you apply and follow all the regulations and so on.
The following year, she submitted an official application to the race, but was denied.
And, it became clear that nothing was going to budge. And this was what, 5 years after Rosa Parks. So, and I'm Quaker in background, and it sort of became clear that I had to do a public challenge. And so that's my one and only act of civil disobedience.
When she decided to run anyway, the news media took notice.
So now the AAU was on the spot, and it got to be the week of the Manchester Road Race, and apparently there was a big hubbub, and they said, no, you'll be banned for life from all competitive events, and I would have been stripped of my New England medals and so on. So we said, well, I'm going to run anyway.
2 other women, Chris McKenzie and Diane Lachose, showed up at the start line to join her.
This is a picture of us trying to argue with the race officials, and they're putting their hands out. No, you can't do it. It's not allowed. It's forbidden, and so on.
Despite the warning, the 3 women slipped in behind the field. Worried about a lifetime ban, McKenzie didn't cross the finish line, leaving Chase Brand to be the first female finisher.
It was absolutely jubilation. The pictures I was doing cartwheels, and it was really neat.
But behind the joy of finishing lingered the shadow of the AAU's threatened lifetime ban.
Eventually, George got a call from the AAU. Would he come in, please? And he came in, said, okay, we've got a deal for you. We will agree to allow trial distance races for women starting this spring. We don't know if there's any interest out there, but we'll do a trial. And in return, you have to promise that Julia will never embarrass us this way again. So I had to promise not to do any more road races, which was kind of an ironic twist. What I'd most wanted, I had to promise to give up. So when Roberta Gibbs, and then Kathy Switzer, and then Joan Benoit came along, I was cheering and crying.
Okay. She'll return to Manchester this year in the same Smith College gym suit she wore 50 years ago. This
is sort of a thank you to all the women who laced up their shoes and went out. It's like coming full circle. Okay. I'm pushing 70, and maybe that was my one moment in time, and I'm going back and revisiting it. And it's a thank you to Johnny and to the other runners and to 50 years of women out there on the road.
Though limited by ailing knees, Chase Brand still finds the opportunity to get outside and recall the sensations of her youth.
Ah, that freedom of being a kid, where even in your dreams you fly, you can bound, and I feel like myself when I'm out and in the woods, along the shore, and running. You just feel like a good animal.